So in this article here, we are going to switch it up and use the AWS product called System Manager, and we'll use some particular features of it to basically do the same thing we did before, automate our patch management of our EC2 instances. And in particular, we'll solve the problem of how, before we were stuck with the problem that we were targeting the hosts that we wanted to upgrade with their IP addresses, which was potentially changeable, right? And so that wasn't satisfactory. So good news, turns out that we could actually still use our exact same Ansible configurations, just use it within the context of AWS's System Manager, and we kind of had the best of both worlds. So just so you know, some prep work we did here. First, I just manually created just through the console here, I created a bucket, in this case called Systems Manager Run Command Ansible. And that's going to hold basically our commands, our Ansible scripts that we'll use in this process. And they also created another bucket called Legacy Upgrade Output. And what this one is when we do our, I think, actually we won't end up using this one. I actually started to use this one and then I actually abandoned it. So ignore that one. The only one we use is System Manager Run Command Ansible. Okay, so I created the bucket, that's the first thing. And then I also then went in and created a role for our EC2 instance. So with System Manager in their docs, they actually have a section, if I can get to their docs here, they have a section on setting up like kind of the prerequisites and in their user guide. And in particular, if you look at this, there's a section up, right? They have this step 1 through 5, right? So one mechanism they suggest is you could just use they have like a quick start way of like a wizard doing this, but I didn't do it that way. Basically, I wanted to make sure I understood the problem. And so basically it amounts to is creating a new role for your EC2 instance you're managing, and then adding some particular profiles. So let's look at real quickly at what that looks like. And again, I did this, I actually did this through Terraform, but let's look at it from the perspective, it's easier just to see here in S3. So here's my console here. So if I look at identity access management, again, this was actually done in Terraform. So the Terraform config you see there has it in it. If I look at roles and I see a role called Legacy EC2, this is now a role that the EC2 legacy instances all have. And you notice it has a couple Amazon profiles, CloudWatch Agent Server Policy, and then they have another one called Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core, and then these two inline policies are the ones that I created specifically to. One was this Ansible commands, and one was actually again this was, well, I think I'll probably end up removing this S3 write legacy output. Or I might just leave it there, actually. Actually, I'm going to leave it there. So one of the things, well, we'll see in a bit. There's two different ways you can output your commands that run in System Manager. One is to CloudWatch, so it uses this top policy. Or you can have it write to a bucket. So again, I didn't end up using this bucket. I'm going to leave it in, actually, in hindsight. And then this is the permission to basically write to it. Okay, so again, the specifics of this are in the Terraform configuration, and there's one for the other bucket. Okay, so those are sort of the prep work. I think give me a second. Let me get myself regrouped for a second. Give me a second. Again, the main things we just talked about was we created a bucket. Actually created 2 buckets. We created a role, signed to the EC2 instance, and then it has 4 policies, 2 of which were provided by Amazon, 2 are custom and basically have to do with buckets. Okay, the next thing I realized is that and we'll look at this here. I'm going to look at this Packer configuration that we did before. There's an updated Packer configuration, and that is because if you look at the playbook, right, so we switched to Ansible, and that's how we installed HTTP or Apache, right? But one of the things, it turns out that the Red Hat 8 enterprise server image that we use does not come pre-installed with the Amazon SSM agent, which is basically the system manager agent. So I had to add that. So I added that, created a new image with Packer, and then I deployed that new image through my Terraform configuration. So that was something I did also, right? So now my legacy instances now have the agent running. Okay, so that was another thing I did. And with all that in place, we can actually now run System Manager, and I'll just show you what I did to test it, right? So let's go back into here. We go into System Manager. So the first thing I explored was just running commands, just like I did before with Ansible. And there's a thing called run command right here. And one of the commands, so the way you do a command is you just hit run command, right? And one of the commands was, let's see if I can find it. Oh, misspelled this. Upgrade. No. What was it? Okay, I'm going to pause for one more second. Let me find what I did my first example with. So one of the tests that was kind of easy to do, that didn't require a lot of work, was just setting the AWS Update SMS agent, or SSM agent, which just tries to update the agent file. Now, it probably wouldn't update because it was really just installed like seconds ago. But so basically, you select this, and you basically target your instances, right? So you go here, you pick your instance, and then you basically just run it. Okay. One other thing you want to do is, instead of writing to a bucket, you actually can just write the CloudWatch, right? And you just hit run. Now, instead of doing it again, let me just show you what the output of that looked like, if I can find it real quick. So if I look at CloudWatch, I hope I can find it quick enough. If you look at the logs, there's a log group called, scroll. It's here somewhere, hang on. Oh yeah, here it is here. AWS update. So this is the output of that run, right? And you can see that it updated the agent, it downloaded it, the manifest, and realized it was already up to date, and it finished fine. So basically, that's how you can do a run command, right? You basically pick some sort of operation, you pick a target, and you run it. The next example I did of this was, let me go back into System Manager this way. So I wanted to run my ping command. So this was basically, I want to use an Ansible. So let me go, I'll set it up, but I'll actually show you the output. So if I go back into run command, dang it, run command. Okay, the machine's behaving badly. Let me just pause for a second until my machine behaves better. So I'll just simulate what I did. So in this case, you notice that there's an apply Ansible playbook, and which means now we can actually just take our playbooks and run them in here. And so the source type here, we're going to say S3. Let me pause again. I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah, so basically we had created that bucket called System Manager Run Command Ansible, right? So this is the format you use. You basically give a link to the path to the S3 bucket, right? You leave this dependencies alone true. You pick the one that, I uploaded one called ping YAML. We'll look at that in a minute. And then everything else is defaulted. I can choose a target, right, manually, and then write back to CloudWatch instead of to an S3 bucket writing, and then you hit run. Now let me look real quickly at what the format of, and again this file is linked into the story, right? vi ping run. So this is the file here. I actually uploaded this ping, but I just want to keep it separate. So here, the key here is I need to set hosts to all. So when this runs, it'll run only on this instance, but the way you do it is you have to say all here, by the way. The remote user, because this is an Amazon, is EC2 user, and then this is just the ping command that we saw earlier. Okay. So that's sort of the target file, or the Ansible file you're going to use. So that's why up here it says ping somewhere. There's the path ping.yaml, right? And you just basically run this. So if you run this, I'm not going to run it again, but let's look back at CloudWatch. And if I look back at my log groups, I can see my apply Ansible playbooks. And I did a number of attempts at this. Let me see. I had probably some problems at first. I'm betting this was my ping. Let's see. Yeah. So here's my ping here. So when I ran that ping, it basically sets up the environment, and then there's your ping, right? And it's successful. Okay. And then the next test I did was the same thing. But with my upgrade feature. So if I look at my upgrade run command, again, it's just like before. I'm just doing upgrading all packages with yum, but I'm targeting all, and again, it's same EC2 user. And when that ran, so I did the same thing, I ran it, and you get, hopefully I can find it, it's a standard out, maybe of this one here. Right. So here's it basically ran that, and then it gives you the results of all the upgrades it does, right? And in the end, it is successful. OK to change 1. So that's essentially that command now running, right? Now the thing here is these commands are being run manually. So the question is, how do we automate this so that it runs like maybe once a week, right? Maybe you want to run this upgrade command once a week. And the way you do that is back in System Manager. Let me close down some other things. Got too many windows open. Close up CloudWatch. Okay, back in System Manager, there's a feature called Maintenance Windows. So with Maintenance Window, you basically create a maintenance window. In this case, I set it up to run every day at midnight Eastern. The window will be open for 1 hour, and that's the window itself is basically just sort of a time slot. Then you assign targets, and in this case, let's see if I can view it. I guess I'll hit edit. So now one thing I didn't mention is also in the Terraform config, I actually applied a configuration to have all of the instances, the legacy instances, have a tag of name with a value of legacy. So now I can actually target this, this regular maintenance window to run against anything that has a tag of name and legacy. So that's how I targeted those instances. Now there's only one instance, but that's how that's targeted. So that's what the targets are. So if you look back in your maintenance window, there's the time window, which is default, is kind of its main setting. There are the targets, what boxes it can run on, and then the tasks are, in this case, this is a run command of an Ansible playbook, right? And excuse me. And this is very similar to other setup, but I forgot, right? One thing that was different about this, if you go through all of this, oh, excuse me. If you scroll down, there was no option to output to CloudWatch. So this is why actually I had the S3 bucket, because I had to be able to write log somewhere because I wanted to see the output. And in this case, the only option they had is to write to S3. So that's why that bucket exists. Sorry, I forgot about that. So basically everything else is pretty much very much the same as what we did earlier. You basically give it the S3 bucket. You basically tell it what file to run. This really SSM true is not needed, but it was a default, so I left it. Everything else here is pretty much defaults. Okay, and so this is now going to run every night at midnight. It's going to run that upgrade Ansible script against any box that's named with a tag of name legacy. Okay, so that's pretty much all I did in this series. Now I did spend amount of time with another feature that never ended up getting to work. It was sort of blindly easy except until it didn't work. So there's a feature called System Manager Patch Manager, which will essentially do more of a smart upgrade of Yum, right? Right now we're just blindly upgrading everything, no matter what happens, right? Probably not a great strategy. You probably want to only upgrade security issues, and this patch manager is supposed to do that. And the problem I ran into, basically, you just, it's super kind of simple. You basically, I'll just do it real quick. I won't run it because it won't run properly. Name and then legacy. You can select an existing maintenance window, or you just run it right now, right? And then you hit push. You push configure patching. So it's pretty straightforward. The problem you'll run into is probably the same problem I ran into, and I decided that I just didn't have the energy to chase it down. But if I look at cloud, actually, let me look back in System Manager. The output, just if you ever try this yourself, what it'll do is it'll create actions that are in the run commands. It'll basically, when you do it that way, it just creates a run command, and you see I have all these fails. These are all my attempts at troubleshooting this. And what you'll get is errors along the lines of, there's some problem with Red Hat 8, the version of Python that is or isn't installed on the box, and it tries to use a Python module called Yum, and it's trying to get it to work with different versions of Python, and it won't work. So I troubleshot it for a couple hours and decided that it wasn't enough for me to keep on down this path. But there's some conflict between Python, what version of Python, and this Yum library that Python uses, which is something that this patch manager uses. So I'm sure it's solvable, but there was no easy Google out of this one, and my easy attempts didn't work. So I tried to manually install Python, did all sorts of things. So either way, that's something I didn't end up being successful doing. So instead, I just left it right now. I'm just running kind of a cruder version of my upgrade, which is basically upgrade all the Yum packages every day. Okay, so that's kind of my punt. That's it.